You are welcome, and today we are going to see how we can compute for the depreciation of a machine. We all have machines, we all use equipment, we all have assets, and assets book value normally reduce. Assets book value normally reduce because of time, usage, wear and tear, obsolescence, and, and, and maybe misuse. But how do you understand the correct mathematical way of computing depreciation of any asset? There are many types of depreciation, but we are only interested in a few, like one or two. And the first one is straight line depreciation method. After understanding that depreciation is the process of reducing the book value of a tangible product or asset due to use, passing of time, wear and tear, or obsolescence, we can also understand that straight line depreciation method is one of the methods that we are going to look at while understanding the depreciation expense of a product. So straight line depreciation is a fixed cost depreciation method where the expense is spread out evenly over the asset's useful time. The example we have today is a server computer, and this server computer was bought at 45 million, and its residue value or salvage value was estimated at 900,000. And the useful time of the machine was given to us in years, and it is 12 years. So if the useful time of the machine is 12 years, we can use the depreciation value and the machine cost plus the time in terms of years, or time in terms of useful time, to determine the depreciation rate. The depreciation rate is 1 upon the asset's useful time. So in this case, our server computer depreciation rate will be 1 upon its useful time. And the useful time of the machine, or the useful life of the machine, is 12 years. So for us to understand the depreciation rate, we shall consider to compute it as equals 1 upon 12. 1 upon 12 means 12 is the useful time of the machine. So at that time we shall have that value 0.0833. Now for us to get the depreciable cost, we compute it as equals the cost of the server computer, which is B1, 45 million, minus the residue value. And that gives us a depreciable cost. So depreciable cost is machine cost minus the salvage value. Now, let us understand how we are going to compute for the SLN depreciation starting from year, opening book value, depreciation, accumulative depreciation, and closing book value. Remember, we are starting from before the machine is put to use. And from the time the machine is put to use to when we compute year 1 is understood as year 0. And the closing book value before the end of year 1 is the same amount of the machine at which it was bought, which is equals the sale reference of the machine cost B1, and press enter. At this time, we start from when before the closure of the first year. So before the closure of the first year, we shall consider it as year 0. And by the time we move from the 0 month, the first month, to the 12th month, at that time, we shall have it as year 1. But for us to generate that, let us use an if function that will enable us generate from year 0 to year 1, year 2, year 3, up to year 12, and eventually it will enable us to end, which will indicate the useful time of the machine is over. So at that time, at this point, I'm going to start working with the formula, and working with our if formula, we start with equals if, open brackets, the year, which is A7, is less than the useful life of the machine, which is B3. What will happen? Comma, A7 plus 1, which is 0 plus 1 is 1, comma. If it is not less than that, what will happen? We shall see a communication that says end of useful life. Enter. So at this point, we shall drag our formula up to when it will indicate for us that end of useful life. It's surprising that at this level, after 1, it is telling us end of useful life. And let us determine why is it communicating such, yet we expect it to communicate that after the 12th year. So we examine that through first clicking in our formula and see the cell reference of each item we are using in our formula. So at this level, A7, that is at year 0, less than B3, which is at useful time. If it is less than B3, A7 plus 1, which is correct. Else, end of useful life. Now, let us click where we see the answer we don't expect. We double click. At this level, it is showing us that equals if A8, which is 1, is less than B4. And at this time, B4 is our depreciation rate, not useful life. So what does this mean? It means that our formula was not properly fixed. So the cell reference is adjusting downwards as the cell reference for the useful year adjusts downwards too. For your formula to work properly or to be efficient, you need to fix, which means that that value will be used through other cells for a number of times. So at this level, we shall go back to our function, if function, the first one, and fix B3. You click on B3 in your formula and press F4. On some computers, like laptops, you need to press Fn plus 4, and on other computers, you just need to press F4. So on my computer, I'm pressing Fn plus F4. So we press enter, and we try to drag again. Right now it has worked. And after the 12th month, we are seeing communication end of useful life. Once you can run the first formula framework and it works properly, just clap your hands and expect everything to work well, because now we are just going to copy the formula and make a few changes in our formula. So let's see how we copy a formula. How do we copy a formula? Click in the formula that you want to copy, highlight that formula, press Ctrl plus copy, and after pressing Ctrl plus copy, click on the escape key. When you click on the escape key, the highlight and the formula will disappear and the value will show for that answer, for that cell. Click in the cell where you expect to paste the formula and press Ctrl plus V, and the value of the cell where you copy the formula will display. That means it is the same formula that you are pasting. But what do we want to do? We want to test our condition. Our condition is if S7 is less than B3, S7 plus 1, but at this time we don't want S7. At this time we need the book value, right? So what is the opening book value? The opening book value we are talking about here is the value of the machine before we started using it. And that's the value of the machine at year 0, before deployment. So the value of the machine at year 0 is always indicated in the row of year 0, but in the cell of the closing book value. All right? In the cell of the closing book value of year 0 is where we indicate that. Now, and how do we indicate that? Click in the cell reference of year 0 for closing book value and press equals, and reference with the machine cost after pressing equals, pressing B1, which is the machine cost, and press enter. So now we have the closing book value of year 0. Why is it the same value? It is the same value because at that time we have not yet started. We have not yet used the machine. The machine is still in its box. So when we start using it from day 1 until the first year ends, from actually the first day of the first month to the 12th month, that is when we shall say that the machine has lasted for 1 year. That is why we put the closing book value of the machine in year 0, because at that time we have not yet started using the machine. Now, after year 1, we shall compute for its depreciation. That is why we are computing for depreciation, opening book value of the machine at year 1. So, the opening book value of the machine is the closing book value of the machine of year 0 before using it. What is the closing book value of the machine before the end of the first year? It is 45 million. So if S7 is less than the time, what happens? Closing book value. So we call for the closing book value, which is E7, and press enter. So opening book value is 45 million, and we drag our formula. So let's find out the depreciation expense. The depreciation expense for SLN is understood as 1 upon useful life, which is depreciation rate, into depreciable cost. And depreciable cost is machine cost minus residue value. What do we get? So let us put in our formula. We paste the same formula that we copied in year 1, Control V, and we edit by saying depreciation rate fix into depreciable cost. Fix, press enter, and we drag our formula. Let's look at accumulative depreciation. Accumulative depreciation is the sum of all depreciations starting from year 0. And at this moment, we are at year 1. So, we paste our formula. Therefore, accumulative depreciation is the sum of all depreciation starting from year 1. Open sum, open brackets, depreciation, press shift and full colon, and then fix the first depreciation, and then press enter and drag the formula. If you happen to look at that carefully, after the 12th month, it is printing for us end of useful life, end of useful life, end of useful life, end of useful life. But now, lastly, let us look at closing book value. Closing book value, we still paste at closing book value, we still paste our formula, and we come to edit the area of the first option. And the first option is if it is less than the time expected, we have to compute for the closing book value. And closing book value is closing book value minus depreciation expense. So closing book value minus the depreciation expense. Press enter. And at that time, we shall see from our Excel computation that at the 12th year, the machine is at its salvage and its useful time is over. So the predicted amount of money for the machine after 12 years will be 900,000, and it is the same value we can see from our computation that the residue value of that machine after 12 years is 900,000. I hope you've understood this very well and you have picked a lot of sense from it. I thank you for watching.